Salvete, amici. Anyway, last time I took a Latin class was 1994, and I just found this, a scan of a certificate I got from my teacher, Dr. Pasuti. It says Scholar Cum Laude for outstanding performance in Latin, Magister Linguae Latinae. But yes, I was much better then than I am now, but I'm working on it, and I bought the books that I used back then, the books that Dr. Pasuti used with us, Ecce Romani, and I got the Roma Aeterna, 2nd edition, by Hans Orberg, which goes with Lingua Latina per se Illustrata series, going through the Apicius cookbook. And since I didn't see a lot of bullae and lunulae pendants and such on Etsy, I decided to put some of those up for sale, so I'll be doing that, and I hopefully getting down to the art store in town today, bringing some paperwork so I can start selling their local photography and such. I did a local calendar. I had been doing that for several years, and then I took a year off. Prices went up on so many things, but I've been looking for pendants that resemble the bulla or the lunula. Dr. Pasuti had us make these square pendants. They were square, turned to the side, so like diamond shaped, and my name was Amata Suffragia for Latin class, and we all had Latin names because he gave us Latin names because you decline the names in some cases, so, and this usually doesn't work with many of the names that we had, so you'd end up with the boys having names that end with US and the girls having names that end in A, so that's why it was Amata. In hopes of making better videos, both in English and Latin, about things like how to make wax tablets, about the history of and how to make bullae, and how to make scrolls with papyrus. I've been making some of those, so I have to do the things for a while before I can talk about it too much, and I also have to get better with my vocabulary. So I've been watching a lot of channels in Latin, and I wanted to do some things like the history of paint. As for why ancient Rome, because we have historical records of it. We can go back further, but it's difficult. Written history, basically. Had a few dreams with Latin grocery lists in them. Garum, oleum. And it's important to go around the yard with a sword and with my Wagina. Do a video on that, etymology here. My plans for the channel, so I will eventually get into vocabulary. I'm Latin vocabulary and grammar and such, but I have to get better with it myself first, so that's why I'm using it to do things like play video games, make recipes, and just going through the yard and talking to myself in Latin. That's helpful. And there are many reasons, to learn Latin at any point in your life, whether you're an adult or child. You don't have to be a young person learning it in school to benefit from it. It can provide, a challenge and rewards later in life also. I mean, even in books talking about what's good for your mental health and what's good for exercising your brain and such. It's good to learn things and to challenge yourself. And I was always interested in languages, and Latin was the first foreign language I was really exposed to. I also like programming and computer languages and things, but those aren't for everybody. But with language, you also are able to use it to communicate with people, so that's part of why it is beneficial and rewarding. you can communicate in it, you can read things from the past, and you can read ancient authors and, see that a lot of it does apply, to modern day people, and people haven't changed all that much in certain ways. And also with things like Stoicism had a great impact on cognitive behavioral therapy. So reading them in the original is really the best way to go. I mean, if you can manage to do that. If you have the inclination, that's one way, that's one reason for doing it. Just the connection to the past and the fact that, these things are still applicable. A lot of the things are still applicable. But of course, any philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and so on, are human, and to err is human, so everything should also be taken with a grain of salt. But the more such books you read, the more perspectives you have to look at the world with, and this can be helpful. Some people would say that learning ancient languages is useless because you can't communicate in them, but you can communicate in them because people still do use them, and the more people that you can talk into learning them, the more communication is therefore possible. So people talk about it, like it's some elite club, but it doesn't have to be. And I want to do a video on misconceptions on language learning, because I've learned and forgotten so many. I took Spanish in high school for 4 years, took a bit of Spanish in college, majored in German after majoring in art, and minored in French. And then I just sort of dabbled in other things, like Russian and Korean, which I've completely forgotten. I know a few food words in Korean, and that's all that's left of that from having a Korean roommate and buying some books on it. But, mostly I've learned Indo-European languages, so that's probably what I'll be talking about on this channel. And also the time I spent studying in Germany and Austria, I wanted to talk about that a bit, which was just great fun. And I think of Joseph Campbell, and also William James, on the varieties of religious experience. Whereas, people complain about, non-Catholics complain about Catholic churches, but they really were, the architecture and art really were made to inspire, feelings of awe in people. So I do appreciate that, and we did visit a lot of, churches and cathedrals and things in Germany and Austria. I remember seeing a lot of religious art as a child too. There's some good documentaries. Some guy named Valdemar, I forget. I'll link it in the comments. But he does some really great art documentaries about Baroque art and architecture and many things. But what I was getting to, and this also goes back to philosophy classes with my old philosophy professor, Dr. Fowler. I just got a book from him and he signed it, so that was great. Learning is a lifelong experience, and I was telling my uncle that, my old philosophy professor, Dr. Fowler, retired from Edinburgh, and he's still doing classes. He's still offering classes via Zoom. I've been checking those out. And it's been great fun. It's been good to reconnect with him, and also just the idea of taking more classes, which I've taken other classes online too. I've taken a lot of game programming classes. I'm taking a lot of game art classes, and game programming with C# and Unity. Also some nature illustration classes, natural history, art. And there are places you can audit courses online for free, and you can have access to the materials without having to pay. So, there are things out there, if you don't just want to spend your time watching, there are great movies and TV shows, and then there are ones that count as junk food. So I think of it in that way. I think of, I'm gonna watch some true crime or something, and that's gonna be a little bit like junk food for the body, but for the mind. And if I watch like a great film, and I get like a Criterion Collection DVD and like watch it a few times with the director's commentary, that is more nourishing for the mind, I would say. Just like taking classes is more nourishing for the mind than scrolling forever on social media in your spare time. So good for your mental health, and it gives you something to talk about, something to do, a positive way to spend your time. And not everything has to be monetized. You can have hobbies. Everybody thinks you have to grind all the time, and you don't have to grind all the time. You can. It's good to take a walk in the woods, and sometimes you go hiking with friends. I went hiking with friends to see petroglyphs recently, and that was great fun. Going to festivals and things, and just like reconnecting with reality after pandemic stuff. It's been good to just get out in the real world and meet space. But that all comes back to moderation in all things. Not too much internet time, and think about maybe the quality of what you're giving your attention to. Is that Epictetus? You are what you give your attention to. So basically, if you're seeing all this bad news and anxiety-provoking things, you're going to be anxious. But yeah, I was happy to find this scan of that. I have the paper around here somewhere. I've been going through old photo albums and things because, like, when I was 16, I think it was 16, for Christmas I got my first camcorder, and I just, for the past 25 years or so, I've been carrying around camcorders and things, and now everybody's videoing things on phones. But I have all this stuff from like the 90s when it was weird to do that, and I just want to relate things back to earlier versions of civilization, and we can compare and contrast in the style of Marcus Aurelius. What are we doing well, what are we doing badly. I think what we're doing badly is, as a society, is what we're giving our attention to, and it's creating anxiety in people. So I think there are more wholesome things to be thinking about and doing. And for me, it's been getting back into learning Latin. I mean, I work as a German translator and an artist, but so, and it's about half and half, as far as income goes. And so I use German every day. I just miss Latin.